Welcome back to my channel. This video will use two unrelated clips. The first is a serious one. The second, while I think it does reflect a serious matter, is mostly for laughs. We hear a lot about cultural appropriation. Personally, I think that is great, within one limit. I mean, it wouldn't be right to take something from another culture and claim it is from your culture. But otherwise, it isn't appropriating anything at all. It is adopting something you like for yourself, which, if you think about it, is what we should praise if you really think diversity is a good thing. A culture that adopts the best thing from other cultures into their own is healthy. So I came across this short video that I think relates to the issue.
Authentic Mexican food is worse than the Americanized versions. American Mexican food is better. Americans do Mexican food better. They just do.
That strikes me as problematic. Similar to the problem I see when food snobs will object to how some people may prefer their food. The classic stereotypical example I've seen is when someone is made fun of because they put ketchup on a steak. I'd never do that. But so what if someone does? To me, you have to be a food Nazi to criticize someone for their personal taste preferences. I particularly find it almost amusing that the critics don't seem to have a problem with steak sauce. I've used steak sauce, though rarely, mostly just to try it on a few bites. While I may not mind the flavor, I do find the taste is so strong that it covers up the natural flavor of the steak. I have no problem if people prefer that, but since ketchup's flavor tends to be far more mild, why complain about that if you're okay with far stronger steak sauce? I found that people can get used to and enjoy many things if they grew up with certain flavors. No reason to begrudge their preferences. Besides, flavor can also be affected by your genetics. So even if you are in a small minority who likes a certain taste that others literally can't taste, so what? But let's go further into what this person says.
Authentic Mexican is kind of one note. It's sort of bland compared to the Americanized forms of it. The best tacos you'll ever have are in America. The best guacamole is in America. Americans are better at making Mexican food. They just are. You know, this is very common, by the way. The Americanized version of third world cuisine is almost always better than the authentic version.
Boy, that doesn't sound good. Oh, there may be some truth to it, but it is also way too simplistic. I remember going to a new Italian restaurant run by real Italians who had recently come straight from Italy. I was really looking forward to it, but ended up being very disappointed. The reason was that it was just bland. I was used to the stereotype of spicy Italian sauce. It so happened that I was in the Navy, and while I had never been to Italy, I served with a lot of sailors who had been stationed there, so I talked to them about it. They told me that most of the places they tried in Italy were also bland to our taste. Of course, their own experiences would be limited to the area of Italy where the American naval base was, but it was still an eye-opener. That is, that what we think of as the flavor of a particular country may not truly be representative. We may simply take something we like and then make changes, which, by the way, is a great thing. Not better, not worse, but great nevertheless. He continues with this description.
Because people, they fetishize, authentic cuisine. But if you go down to Mexico and you have a taco, you'll discover that it's just meat, a corn tortilla, and lime juice. That's all it is. People act like, it's mind-blowing. You don't know what it's like. You can have a taco in Mexico. It's like, okay, well, this is it?
It's true that people can fetishize authentic cuisine, but maybe they just prefer it. However, there is another problem with what he says. I had moved to a new area, and an American restaurant I went to regularly had a guy working there from Mexico. And I was talking to him about how I was surprised by the variation of tacos I saw in Mexican restaurants in the area. Where I had mostly lived, a taco almost always meant just ground beef with, of course, the various toppings. But in my new location, I wasn't seeing that. Instead, they would have chopped beef and shredded beef. He pointed out that in the southern states I came from, we tended to mostly have Mexicans who came from the poor areas of Mexico, thus ground beef instead of higher-priced ingredients. He also told me that in places like Mexico City, there were many great eating places that we don't see represented very much in the U.S. Now, that was just one guy who happen to be familiar with the restaurant business, but I found it worth consideration. Flavors, even in one country, can vary widely. Let's continue.
The only reason we don't have it this way in America is because we want more than this. It's better. We do more with it.
Not quite. Sure, we may prefer additional seasonings. I know I do, but more doesn't necessarily mean better. If it did, why not add oatmeal to scrambled eggs? I prefer what I guess is generally referred to as Tex-Mex. That is, hotter seasonings than what is considered authentic Mexican. Not because it is better, but because it just happens to be what I like, probably because it's what I grew up with. So there is no reason to think that one is better than another, nor is there any reason to make an issue about cultural appropriation. It is great that one culture essentially adopted the food from another and, at least in some cases, combined it with their own preferences. We have too much totally unnecessary criticism and way too much crap about cultural appropriation. Time to be more rational. Now, let's move on to a completely different clip that I just found to be quite amusing. It does tie into a problem I see with many feminists as well. It's even funnier when you see the reaction of the woman on the panel.
Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, and Adam said one day, "Wow, Eve, here we are at one with nature, at one with God. We'll never age, we'll never die. And all our dreams come true the instant that we have them." And Eve said, "Yeah, it's just not enough, is it?"
No, that's not funny.
I was just waiting for more.
No, that was kind of his point.
On the serious side, I do think many feminists are never satisfied. I've seen surveys where men list what they want in a woman, and they have rather short lists, like maybe 5 things. And when asked what they think if a woman they were dating fulfilled 80% of them, they thought that was great. But when women were asked the same question, they had very long lists. And when asked if a man fulfilled 80% of them, they didn't think that was good enough. Just something to think about. Thanks for watching, and don't let the trolls stop you from speaking out.